Indiana is on top of the list. That's right. We said it. You're just in time for our weekly Big Ten football power rankings. Thanks for being here. Locked On Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Shemon, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Thanks to you guys. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. Hey, hit that free subscribe button so you never miss a single episode. And if you can share, follow, and like. And by the way, hype YouTube videos. That helps us out too. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So the case for Indiana over Ohio State. How about the Big Ten middle class? Where does that begin? Where does that end? Plus our weekend plans for our live podcast after the Big Ten championship game. But let's jump on it. I'm going to put this on screen. If you're audio only with Apple or Spotify, no problem. We're just going to have my face next to a list and a ranking team by team with their logos. Look, the Big Ten, there's a criticism. It's top heavy, right? Indiana, Ohio State, Oregon. And those are our rankings, 1, 2, 3. And then where exactly does that second tier begin and where does it end? I am personally disappointed that somebody didn't jump out of that next batch and get into the top 4 and get us 4 playoff teams in the college football playoffs. So, I don't know where that line begins and or ends. I mean, I suppose USC is the beginning of the second tier. How far down this list do we go? Maybe Iowa, maybe Washington, maybe Illinois. I don't know before we cut off the second tier and look for these teams to move ahead next year. But Indiana coming off a big win over Purdue, 56-3. They beat Purdue 66-0 last year. So I guess some improvement by Purdue, sort of. I made a case in our full-length podcast today. We do multiple podcasts every day that Indiana's roster is better than Indiana's. I mean, better than Ohio State's. Indiana's roster is better than Ohio State's. So I think you know which way I'm leaning on Saturday's game. Look, I make the case. You can agree or disagree. Go back and check it out for a second listen after this one. But I moved Indiana ahead of Ohio State about a month ago in our power rankings if you're new here. Ohio State's still solid. Look, they beat Michigan. They did it. Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith are outstanding. Got to tip your cap to Matt Patricia, the rocket scientist defensive coordinator. Took over for Jim Knowles, who did a pretty good job and did an even better job. 7 points per game. That's it. By the way, Indiana gives up 11 points per game. So we may have a bit of a defensive battle, maybe taking the under on Saturday night, even though both teams have explosive pieces on offense. Oregon sitting steady at number 3. They had a couple of prove-it games with Iowa and USC, and they still had to beat Washington, in my opinion, in order to get to the playoffs. They took care of that. I think Oregon is one of the most balanced teams out there in the country, and their defense. We always talk about Oregon's offense. By the way, Will Stein, their offensive coordinator, going to be the head coach of Kentucky now. But I think their secondary is top 3 in the country. I think they're fantastic against the pass. So there's where we cut it off, right? And those are the playoff teams. USC, not quite there, but pretty good. Now, I moved USC up 1 this week to number 4, Michigan down 1 to number 5. I had them flipped last week, and you may be going, wait a minute. Why was USC even ahead of Michigan? They beat Michigan a month ago. Yes, they did. And I pointed this out in last week's podcast. But at the time last week, if Michigan had won against number 1 Ohio State at home, and by the way, after the first quarter, I thought that was a possibility, didn't you? Ohio State with the interception, Michigan with 100 yards rushing right away. Then they didn't get like another yard the rest of the game. Who saw that coming? But, Michigan was still playoff eligible at that point, and had they, done the unthinkable and beat Ohio State and got to the playoffs, I had to have them ranked higher than USC. But now that the games have been played, we have some reality setting in. USC back in the number 4 spot, Michigan down to number 5. And frankly, just eyeball test, Michigan never really looked like a playoff team this year, even though they improved by a couple of wins over last year. So, and we'll see where they take things next year as well. Iowa had an impressive win against Nebraska on Friday. They're sitting steady at number 6. We have talked at length on this podcast what could have been all those close losses. Oregon, USC, Indiana, Iowa State, just win 2 of those 4. And we're talking about a very different story for Kirk Ferentz and Iowa this year, but they're a strong number 6 for us in our weekly power rankings. Washington, number 7. Sometimes Washington looked like they could make a run to the top of that tier and try and get into the playoffs, and then other times they didn't. They were a fun team to watch. I'll give them that. They're entertaining. They got a lot of nice talent on that team, but they flirted in and out of the top 25, and then they lost to Oregon in their season finale. They did beat Illinois. That's why I got Illinois after them at number 8. Illinois, surprising loss to Wisconsin late, right? And then they did beat Northwestern for the Land of Lincoln Trophy by 7. Not quite there. This is a good team. Last year was a very good team. Like Washington, Illinois flirted with the top 25 this year, sitting at number 8. I got Illinois just beat Northwestern. I got them ahead of Northwestern here. Northwestern number 9. Even in games that Northwestern lost, they were in them. I mean, the walk-off loss to Michigan. They had the late field goal to beat Minnesota, and then watch Minnesota miss a game-tying field goal. Lost by a touchdown to Illinois. This is a good, steady, solid little team here for David Braun, and they're going to go to a bowl game for the second time in 3 years. Penn State cracks their top 10 since they got beat. Let's see, they played well in the first half against Ohio State. Then the next week, they went to the wire with Indiana. Looked really good, just didn't close. Since that Indiana loss, they've won 3 in a row, including a thriller that was probably a bit more close and higher scoring against Rutgers for the season finale. But Penn State rounds out our top 10 in our weekly Big Ten football power rankings. Let's take a look at the best of the rest. Got Nebraska at number 11. They really have been in a bit of a slump here. This was another team at the beginning of the year. I thought, man, can they get in that upper second tier? Emmett Johnson, the running back, Dylan Raiola. Raiola got hurt, so you got TJ Lateef. Good running game, though. They got crushed at Penn State, and they got beat badly at home by Iowa. So they're sitting at number 11, outside our top 10. Minnesota at 12. I mentioned the close game at Northwestern. They did beat Wisconsin in the snow. Interesting team. There's a good team. Not quite in that next tier. Wisconsin really struggled all year with their brutal schedule. And since Minnesota beat Wisconsin at the end, I got Wisconsin right after them. And plus Wisconsin, look, they had a bad year. They had a bad year. Harder schedule in the Big Ten. And beat a couple of, Washington and Illinois, right? So teams that have flirted with being ranked, they beat them. So Wisconsin played a lot better in the second half of the year. It seems like once they announced that Luke Fickell was coming back, all the pressure was off and they started winning football games, a couple. Rutgers, I moved them up despite the loss to Penn State. I thought they played hard, and they've had a tough stretch of schedule with Penn State and Ohio State for Greg Schiano. I flipped them with UCLA. Rutgers up 1, UCLA down 1 to number 15, and UCLA closing out with a loss to USC. They do get a new head coach, though, and Bob Chesney from James Madison. That's where Kurt Cignetti came from, so we'll see what that does for UCLA. Michigan State, pumped them up 1. They finally got a Big Ten win, beat Maryland, so I got them ahead of Maryland. And Michigan State needed that win, but then Jonathan Smith got fired afterward. They have a new coach, too, and Pat Fitzgerald, the former Northwestern coach. Maryland, 4-0, and then they lose 8 straight. Mike Loxley's coming back. Malik Washington, promising quarterback. I think that's part of it. And then Purdue in the basement got throttled by Indiana, and they lost 10 in a row there at Purdue. So there you have it. Those are our power rankings, all bundled up. What do you think? I always ask. I think we got it right. I think we nailed it. Maybe you think you could have tweaked it 1 or 2 with your team. Let me know. If you are new, we're here every day. We're here every day, all 18 teams. Big Ten. We usually do multiple podcasts every day, all things Big Ten, with news, analysis of that news, opinion. We're never afraid to give our opinion, obviously. If you can hit that free subscribe button, you'll never miss a single episode. You'll be aware of where we are. We'll be together in the Big Ten Club. Plus, we're wherever you are. We have the video version on YouTube. We have audio only on Spotify or Apple or wherever you get your podcasts. You never miss an episode there. But if you could share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten, that would help us out too. We also have a website, talkbig10.com with the number 10. All of our podcasts go there. As soon as we're done, archive them. Go back and check out yesterday's podcast for a second listen, get caught up, and then you can hit your the school logo there at talkbig10.com. Takes you to a store. You get shirts with your school logo, pennants, hats, coffee mugs, stocking stuffers for the holidays, all right there. All right, we're going to run down the game plan for Saturday after the Big Ten Championship. We will take care of all that in 1 minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. NFL Sundays move fast, and you can be part of it, though, with FanDuel. You know, one big play, suddenly everything feels different. Games going down on the wire. That makes live betting on FanDuel so exciting. You're just not just watching the game. You feel like you're participating in the game. You're reacting in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment, you're in it. So live betting is best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, quarterback starts rolling, momentum flips, all that stuff. You can jump right in there with the latest hunch. FanDuel lets you be part of the moment. And I tell you, if you notice, the primetime games have been kind of lower scoring for the most part. I think players are getting tired and worn out at the end of the season. Usually take the unders. But Thursday, the game between the Cowboys and the Lions, it's 53.5. I take the over on that. I think it's going to be a shootout. Both teams in the 30s on them. That's my opinion. Just letting you know. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the games move fast, and so can you with FanDuel.com. Thanks for checking us out here on Locked On Big Ten. All right, here's the deal. We're here every day, and we thank you for making Locked On the number one sports podcast network out there, especially everydayers out there. Be sure to hit that free subscribe button down below so you never miss an episode. And if you could also share, follow, and like, that'd be great. And don't forget our website, talkbig10.com. While we're here every day with multiple podcasts, we will go live right here after the Big Ten Championship game, 8 o'clock kickoff, Lucas Oil Field, Indiana and Ohio State, number 1 versus number 2, 2 undefeateds, probably a Heisman Trophy winner coming out of this game between Julian Sayin and Fernando Mendoza. And as soon as it's over, as soon as the winning coach does the on-field interview, boom, we're live. Join us. Mark your calendars. Be ready to go. If you subscribe, you'll be informed when we go live, so you don't miss it. And you get my real, raw, post-game reaction, unfiltered. And I get yours too with real live time comments. So that's what makes it so much fun. We do it all season long. We have a lot of fun with it. So join us after the Big Ten Championship game when we go live. Join us tomorrow for another podcast as well. Don't forget, subscribe. Follow us on Twitter at TalkBig10, our website, talkbig10.com. And we will do it all again tomorrow. So thanks for joining us here today for Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Shemon. Talk to you next time.